Good evening, Wizards, and welcome to another episode of Wizard Wednesdays. Now, quite an exciting one, to be honest with you, because we will be introducing a little new idea to the Wizard Wednesday for this episode in particular. Now, I won't be doing this for every episode as it's pretty pointless, because once the key levels are set, we do not really need to continue from there onwards and continue adjusting. However, seeing as this is a free channel and there are a lot of new people in the market as well, I'm going to give you a little insight into how I plot my key levels from a top-down analysis perspective as well, just literally covering BTC, XRP, Ether, and for the refreshing side to cover some altcoins and do a quick technical analysis on those as well will be Neo and Dent, as I do not have the chart set up for those right now. So before we actually continue going to the other altcoins, and there's a lot to get through once again. So with the altcoins and the other ones, there are so many because you guys are peppering those tweets with all of your requests, and luckily a lot of them are the same, so it does make life a little bit easier on my end. However, with so much going on in the market, it's around 6 p.m. here in the UK, and of course 8 p.m. I want this all released out to you guys as well. On top of that, I wanted to do this whilst BTC is pumping. I'll show you a little live trade that's running on it as well from another account separate to the one that was covered in the Telegram, as I did enter a little bit earlier as a bit more of a speculative bet in comparison to waiting for a full confirmation breakout. So I'll show you a little insight into that as well, where I've placed my stop loss, where I actually bought, and then we can carry on as well with the altcoins. So very quickly, just going into, should we start with this or this? So first of all, the BTC halving, the block halving. This will be happening in pretty much 13 months time. So if you have not watched the video yesterday discussing where I think BTC is heading, which as of now it does look like it is heading to that specific projected region, it could very well be a ploy, a bullish ploy, I believe is going to be unfolding for BTC to reach around $6,000 to $6,800 before potentially reversing back to the downside and seeing that $3,000 region and potentially even into the 1,000s. Yes, the 1,000s sounds scary, but it's not as scary when you realize where the market would be. And I do believe what could trigger from this bullish surge is another lower high, which will then form us and continue the bearish trend throughout the remainder of 2019 until this period here around 24th of May 2020. My birthday is the 5th of May. I said this in the video as well. So I do believe if this works out well, this could be the universe telling me and the rest of the wizards we are in for a great treat next year. So I am taking this into consideration. There has been a very linear and repetitive history of BTC's price action around these halvings. So I'm looking forward to this, but I do believe before that we cannot kind of get ahead of ourselves, so to speak. We have to remain level-headed and we have to remain focused on the bigger picture, because at the end of the day we are still in a bearish market, and I'll be covering that now. But excuse me, the SEC have obviously released this statement as posted in the Telegram as well. Now, something interesting about this statement that I want to note here is they have technically acted as an intermediary for the division of corporate finance. So the director of division of this corporation finance, Bill Hinman, and Valerie and blah, 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 senior advisor. For some reason, they have not actually published it themselves. They are publishing it on their behalf almost, so to speak. So there is not any real clarity on this situation. So they've kind of given a guidance. There's no real regulatory action around it. There's no legal binding law, so to speak, but they have released a statement of some sort. So I don't want anyone to get too excited, as I did cover in Telegram anyway, but they say here themselves, the commission has neither approved nor disapproved its content. So pretty fucking pointless. I don't know why you would even do this in the first place, but I guess it's better than nothing, and it looks like there is progress being made. Now, going on to this right here, excuse me, I have a bit of a sore throat today. I'm trying to push through this. But if you haven't seen this from yesterday's video, CryptoBubbles.net, very interesting website. This is now my new go-to because it helps me see very easily which one and which crypto in particular is dominating the market the most in trading volume, percentage gain, etc., etc. So the way this works is the bigger it is, if you click on it, the bigger the gain, the bigger the market cap, the bigger the daily volume. Now, if you guys have seen Willy Wonka, BTC right now represents Violet when she consumes the whatever it was, the blueberry, and she turns into a blueberry and goes violet. BTC is literally like that right now, and if you drag it, it's just destructing itself, destructing through those little minions like a big fat bully. So looking at it right now, it does look very intense, it does look very powerful, but then we take a little dip down to CoinMarketCap, Lord behold, the BTC dominance is once again back at 50.2%, when only an hour before recording this, it was actually below at 49.8%. And yesterday, it was at 50.8% as well. So we're seeing a huge fluctuation in BTC dominance, which is good, very good, because we are seeing a push. Technically, how we see bulls and bears battling for support and resistance, we are seeing a very similar pattern right now with BTC's dominance. So there is an altcoin surge potentially going to outweigh BTC's performance. It is looking very possible. I mean, again, due to BTC's sheer price, it does make its percentage gain a little bit lower than the rest of the altcoins, for example. Again, Ethereum, almost 12%. Bitcoin Cash, I don't even have words for this one. Or Litecoin. Litecoin has seen a magnificent move today. So once we have a look at the charts, I'll show you that as well. Cardano as well. I've got that loaded up for today. And Binance Coin, we have got that covered. Again, this thing's been moving so fast. Seeing this is just a bit more humbling, actually, to be honest with you. So going over to Yahoo Finance, I'm not sure where the crypto data has gone. Again, great little tool here to use as well, checking the market caps and stuff. Ether remaining fairly much the same. XRP hasn't changed too much either, BTC. So let's move on from the market cap. It hasn't changed too significantly. For me, the BTC dominance in this big fat BTC bubble here is more important to what's occurring. So going over to BTC right now, where are we? We are at $5,158. Perfect. So we're going to be very brief on the BTC analysis as it was covered in yesterday's video. However, with XRP and Ether, we can cover this in depth more. So the first thing I do when it comes to technical analysis is I go to the monthly chart. No matter what I do, the monthly is always my starting point. The problem with crypto versus Forex and stocks is obviously there is not enough price action to really go back in time and see enough historical data. However, with BTC and XRP and Ether, I guess you could say, and Litecoin, there is enough to kind of do this. However, overall, you can still gauge a small bias on where these key levels of support and resistance are. And the way I do this mostly it's just by looking at the candle body closures or the wicks and where they've been accumulating in general. So looking at these regions here, I wouldn't really consider that too significant versus this region here where the candles have closed, they've closed in line again and again and again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles have closed in that region. Now with this, I would just get a simple tool like this. I would make this gray, keep it nice and clean, draw it as clean as possible, because once we drop down, we will be performing. What does that even mean? We will be adjusting these anyway and sorting these out more efficiently. So the first key level to take into consideration is, of course, the round number 6,000, which is the level we snapped from. So although theoretically we snapped from this region here, we have actually broken through a key level being 6,000, as there has been a spike to this level before. So we will take that into consideration once we dip a bit lower, but we want to keep this in line with where the current price action is. We do not want to be doing anything crazy like projecting up here, because it's not necessary and it makes the charts messy. So the first thing that sticks out to me here is this level of around $4,700, a major level that was resistance until we absolutely obliterated it right now. Now we are in a nice in-between trading region of a support and resistance level. What do we do in between? Well, for me right now, I guess I could dip down and start marking these levels off. However, these are the most significant right now, especially where the current price action is. So dropping down to the weekly just to adjust this a little bit better. As you can see anyway, that is absolutely precise from the wicks there. The wicks tapped in, body candle closures over and over again, snapped through. Now, I noticed this earlier. I didn't post it in the Telegram, but this is the first thing I've noticed. There's two levels. We have this, and if you want to cheat, you can technically consider it like that. However, we have this level here, which correlates very well with a breakout / retest of that $6,400 region, which is approximately where I am looking to take profit if we see this huge bullish surge. And again, once we get to the altcoins, we can dictate from there where we will be moving and how the other altcoins will be moving in line, potentially with BTC's main key levels. So some of the altcoins covered have already come through, which is absolutely amazing to see. The likes of BAT, the likes of OX, ZRX has absolutely blown through the roof precisely to the targets before continuing further. So we'll get to those as well and see how they weigh out together. But let's have a look at this in-between intermediary region right now for me, which is where the candle body's closed, loads of wicks spiking through as well, a potential region to be cautious of. So all I'll do is I'll mark this as a kind of intermediary level between the support and resistance. Again, it isn't always like this. It isn't always precise or always dead in the center. However, in this scenario, it has looked quite fortunate in our favor. So I'll make this purple just to differentiate from the key monthly levels we are trading between. And again, I could start plotting all these key levels and stuff for now, but I will not. All I will do is draw that trend line that we had yesterday. Great, broken through right now. Could, to be honest with you, by the end of the week. It's currently Wednesday. I do believe if this does continue rocketing, this will be fulfilled literally by the end of the week. So if anything, we can get rid of that as a kind of obstacle for now, but I'll leave it there for the time being. Going over to the daily, you can see we've already closed above. Could see a potential tap around 4,800, and as covered in the Telegram anyway, anywhere dipping around 4,900 to $4,800, I will be looking at what could be a potential reversal retest to add another position. But as of now, I am just going to ride this wave as covered. I do believe this is a very similar momentum to what we are seeing here. Even if this daily candle does potentially close back down to the 4,900 or 5,000 region, I do believe in a few days of consolidation, we could absolutely fly to fulfill that weekly candle at this level here, around $6,400. So taking that into consideration, this has never been retested, and it's sharpened that up a little bit now to the wick. There we go. Ideally, it's the same level anyway, but as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and potentially 6 levels that will be tested on this one trend line. So something to take into consideration there. As for all of this price action right now, again, if you want, you can mark these levels off in case price does absolutely reverse. Major key level of resistance here that we broke out from. Something to take into consideration. Of course, the downside on that spectrum would be from there to there. However, we have now breached this zone, so it's not too important for me personally. Now, looking at this level here that we marked off, if I just send that to the back, huge amount of congestion in this region. Price has been so choppy. The wicks have been flying through. Perfect tap there. Broke through, held once, broke through, retested, and broke down. So we do have a level of 5,600 just above as well. But again, we do have to be cautious right now. Exercising caution. Sorry, the words are getting lost along with my voice. So on a 4-hour perspective, technically, we've broken through. We've actually already rejected and held this level, which is why I'm quite confident this could just be a very straight up and straightforward move to the upside. And if we go to the daily, back to that July region that I covered, if you did see earlier when I covered this move, I believe it was exactly from here to here. If you cover that from there to there, it lines up pretty much precisely with that 6,350 zone, highlighted resistance. Little tap above to that trend line. It's a win-win either way. And to be honest with you, if price starts breaching 6,000, I'll likely just close my position anyway. I do not want to be greedy. I missed the initial surge. So if I can get the remaining push on this surge, we could be in for an absolute treat. And alongside that, huge resistance level that hasn't been retested since we broke out. We also have a trend line here in play as well. And it would confirm on a longer term perspective. Again, very simple stuff. We do not need to have loads of levels. I'll actually get rid of this because it's actually irritating me. And all we need to do now is, if you really want as well, if you want to get rid of this, what you can do, this can make life a bit easier as well, is just mark this from the 6,000 region and have this as a weekly and daily level. Make it green if you want. I always have my kind of projected targets in green because it just I guess it's like manifestation, law of attraction. I like to have profit blues, profit greens because it just works in your favor in my head. So that's how it works with me. I like to make it green, positive color, green, go however you want to do it. But for me, that's how I like to analyze my chart. So plotting this huge range here, which is actually quite realistic. If I drop that down to 6,400, what you can see is we have all of the candle bodies closing in this region and you're accommodating for those spikes. So perfect spike there, perfect spike there, perfect spike there. That's more than enough confluences for me to signify that this is a very valid level. So back to that daily time frame right now. Where are we? Around $5,122. Again, not very necessary to look at these time frames because it's so much choppiness and mess, but there is of course a trend line running in play as well. 4 hours looking pretty crazy, and if I go to that prior 4 hour move, if I can find it over here around this sort of level here, it's just mimicking very similar price action. So we could be seeing a very significant move coming through, and I do believe this is what's going to unfold soon. So 4 hour candle closure as well in approximately 2.5 hours. That'll be very good to see because it can give us that extra edge to see where the market is heading next. So in terms of downside regions, I guess using this as well. Again, this is all fresh analysis, so I'm just taking it as it comes. As we look at the chart, there's more levels. Take into consideration this level here, the reason I said around 4,900, make that grey. Little intraday levels as well to take into consideration. We've actually broken above, tapped, and absolutely rocketed higher. Well, not absolutely, but we have seen a fairly significant jump, several $100s. So taking this level into consideration as well, now we've broken above $5,100. If we see that closure, we could see a quick tap of this region, tap of that region, and then a continuation to the upside. So overall for BTC, just quick, again, we will have to rush through many of these pairs anyway, but we are going to cover a huge amount in this video. And on top of that, this has been covered in the prior video anyway, so please make sure you've watched yesterday's videos. It's quite important tying into this. And if I go to the trade very quickly as well, you can see here currently have a profit of 1,400 because some of the other trades, I've got some forex trades running as well, are cock blocking me right now. However, BTC is running in just below 3k profit. So once these other FX trades hopefully reverse in my favor, I could be seeing a, well, put it this way, if this hits TP, we are looking at just below 15,000 profit. So I am looking at around a 15k day from BTC alone, should we see that 6,300, 6,400 region met. So this is just fluctuating. I'll let that crack on with what it needs to do. If the FX trades work in my favor as well, then we are looking at a round, should be around 30-40k for the week on top of the profits posted yesterday, which was around 5k. So it could be a very big week if this does come through, and that is almost 2 years annual salary. So that would be ideal to actually see, to be honest with you. Now, jumping into XRP, straight on that monthly level ready. What is going on here? Again, do not want to give too many trend lines, but obviously we do have the most significant one off the bat from the most fresh level right now. I will of course make that black, nice and clean. And again, I would, guys, you can cheat. I'm not really a fan of cheating and doing this because when you see those little spikes through, it can be very difficult to predict it. So whenever something peaks through or whenever the real trend line's formed on a longer term perspective, I like to draw it like that. And then once we drop down to the weeklies, etc., we can really dictate what occurs from there. Now, using potential regions for XRP. So this level here, we do have a pendant slash wedge forming. I like to call them wedges. They're just simple and they remind me of potato wedges because I like potato wedges. So for me, it's just a bit cooler than a pendant. However, there is technically a flag slash pendant forming. And if you look at this right now, I mean, if you look at what could be occurring, it could be a huge surge to a projected region up there. Still would be a lower high because the last high was around 60 cents. Could breach that region there and break straight through and then dip a bit lower. So obviously, going back to BTC, sorry, I am predicting overall, guys, on a monthly perspective as well. Let's look at this from the bigger picture. Excuse me. Looking at this from the bigger picture, we do have this region here, monthly level. Look at how solid that level is right there. Once you break this level, there is nothing really below. Yeah, you've got some spikes there, etc. I guess you could say 3,000 is just below, but once 3,000 is broken or this region's broken, realistically, there isn't anything that's solid until $1,300, give or take. So anywhere from $1,300 to $1,200 on BTC is looking very realistic. And if you take this into consideration, on top of that, the good old Fibonacci tool, was it this way? I believe it was this one. There we go. So having a look at this right now, $6,000 pretty much on the dot is exactly there. 78.6 Fib is at $6,856. All of these confluence very nicely with the resistance and the trend line. So what you could very easily be seeing is a push and a breach up to this zone, bearing in mind this would not annihilate the prior highs here, so it would still be forming lower lows every single time and lower highs. What is wrong with me today? So as you can see on the lower low spectrum, although in the overall trend we are technically making higher highs and higher lows, so to speak. If you're looking at this from the actual current trend for this year, lower lows have been forming. That's 1, 2, 3. So we are projecting potentially another lower high as well, taking us back down to the perfect Fibonacci movement on that 2K region there. Again, I don't really see that one coming through, to be honest with you, but I do believe there could be a very sharp spike, and obviously if it does spike, then this wouldn't be too much of a surprise. But overall, I think this region is very realistic, to be honest with you, and it's good to just be level-headed and not get too ahead of ourselves, because if you look at this right now, movement there, next thing you know, it moves all the way down there. It still fits in with the overall bigger picture and the overall trend, and we have to take that into consideration, to be honest with you, and just accept if it does come through, it's a better opportunity for us, because many people will be fleeing that market in a second. They will be dashing to leave the market. They'll be selling their holdings. You know the saying that when there's blood on the streets is the best time to buy, whatever the saying is anyway, something along those lines. Yes, that's basically a big Wall Street term, and it's there for a reason, because when you see those Wall Street cheat sheets, etc., again, that's in the prior video, when you see those despair, desperation, panic modes and cycles in the market, of course, when the average investor sees Bitcoin potentially drop to $1,000, they will shit themselves. They will be so scared. They will sell their holdings. But the invested, and I guess you could say the veteran that understands the market cycles, and guys, at the end of the day, we have seen a bull run literally from there to there, seeing a pullback from there to there, and even back to there. It's like you have to have both. You cannot have the best of one world and not expect the vice versa to come back and get you as well. It's a market. It's actually, we had a very unhealthy growth, so of course you're going to have a very healthy pullback, because the pullback has been slightly more steady than the bull run. You've seen a lot of volatility, but it has been slowly creeping lower. And overall, on a longer term perspective, it's just like a rollover, and well, that was incredible. Rollover, potentially rollover, and explode to the upside again. So I am still very well hedged and very well projected for this potential level to come through. However, right now we are looking at a potential rise above, so hopefully we can see that push through, especially throughout this breakdown as well. But let's jump to XRP. So first of all, these key levels to take note of are the trend lines, 1, 2, 3. We have already technically seen a third bounce, so to speak, but it would be nice to see one more test above this region. So the first barrier we have in line right here is, of course, this chart hasn't gone on for too long. I should have used another one, but let's just go through this for now. We have this level here where we currently are, resistance on a monthly perspective. The reason being, why have I chosen this level? I could have easily chosen this level. Reason being is huge listing from Bitfinex here, price dumped, huge rejection there, tapped the wick, spiked through, another wick has tapped there. For me, that's a fairly valid level that we'll be adjusting once we drop down to the weekly. And just below, very clear level here, cannot get more clear than that, and I'll actually extend that to be quite thick, because huge precision there, typed through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a lot of wicks, and of course this current monthly candle absolutely exploding from that region. So upside targets, will be covering that very shortly. BTC isn't too easy in terms of targets. It's so messy right now, but XRP is a bit more clearer on the weekly as well. So having a look right now, price is currently wedged still in between that major resistance and that major support zone. We were at some point wedged between this region here, and a breakout has occurred, so I do believe it could tap very soon as well upon filling that movement, and then either continue one last time and pull back, or just dip straight down. So changing the color of this very quickly as well, as you can see, we were consolidated between that region on the monthly alongside holding that trend line. What I was hoping for was a final tap to the downside before rocketing, but unfortunately we did fall just short of that region. So using this as a fine intermediary as well if you really want to. A nice level to take into consideration here is this. Reason being, all of those candle bodies there, rejections, wicks galore. I've never seen so many wicks rejecting one region. Nice valid level, nice and secure. Now, upon an upside breakout, let's just look at BTC to use this as a bit of guidance. We have approximately $1,000, maybe even more. We may even have $1,500 to push to the upside. Now, looking at where price currently is, there isn't really any resistance right now. So now we've broken above, there is pretty much a clear solid ride up to that level if we are going to push higher. As with XRP, there is a slight level here to take into consideration, very strong. But if that breaks through, the next real region we can look at is this level here. And on top of that, before we plot it, let's just do a little cheeky test on that huge Goliath wick there, and it lines up almost perfectly. So we are using the 78.6 fib for this example for these huge volatile swings. I will use that as a bit of analysis there. I will then drag that up to that region, up to the candle bodies. Now, many people want thin lines, but unfortunately in cryptocurrency with these huge wicks and manipulative spikes in play, you cannot really be doing these thin lines unless they're for crucial regions like this, where there are many confluences of the candle body, or you do them on an intraday perspective as well. However, for this one, we are focusing a bit more on the short to medium term versus inter or intraday as well. So plotting this target, let's make that a very successful green color to aid us in our favor. And again, looking at this region down here where these Fibonacci levels are lining up, to be honest with you guys, I do think these could come through. I actually believe this trend line will break once we see the upside spike. And once again, looking at where the current spikes are, even though I do not really consider this a real lower low or a lower high, if we actually look at this realistically as well, even if we do spike to the fib level over here, and even if we do slowly crawl our way to this trend line, I do not believe it will be correlating too much with a new higher high, because this level is around 51, 52 cents, and I do not believe we will be reaching that high. I believe this will be a very short-lived surge. And again, BTC, I mentioned this yesterday, guys, look at all these huge movements. That movement there, look at that movement down there. Look at this movement down here as well. They are getting slightly more short-lived each and every time, because look at this one. Huge movement to the upside. But every time people see these huge movements, you start seeing the bullish momentum. Bullish, bullish, bullish. But yes, it's bullish, but it doesn't mean it's a bull run. It just means the market is having a temporary bullish surge, but in the overall grand scheme of things, we are slowly declining lower and lower. As you can see, decline and potentially roll over to the downside once again. So taking this into consideration as well, that region is around 44 cents. Price is currently consolidated in between, but I would consider the possibility of XRP just rocketing as well very high, because if you want to extend this down to this, or extend it up, sorry, to where the bodies are here for a very precise wick region, broken above, retested, now it's climbing higher, dropping down to the 4-hour many bearish wicks now, looking like it could be pulling back and seeing that potential spike to the trend line as well. So let's just draw that there. Potential regions taken into consideration. This has already been tapped, so may see one more tap, to be honest with you, but overall the momentum is still looking fairly strong. But we have to dictate upon these daily candle closures as well to signify what could be occurring. So let's just have a little look at prior price action. Has anything similar occurred before? Well, looking from how this has blown out before, look at that right there. I do not believe it will be this big, but we have seen a very similar action. So surge, surge, almost identical candle right there. Quick tap of the prior bodies there around halfway, so around 36 cents, and then obliterate. So could be seeing similar movements to that side as well. Something to definitely look at, something to be excited about, but we still have to remain and exercise caution. So as I did cover on this level here, if I just get rid of this for a second, what we did cover in the Telegram was this level here. So we have, I've actually forgotten the level off by head. So we have 4,920, which is just above here, which BTC has now broken through. And just below, we have 4,200. So let's go back, 4,200 around this region here. So again, aligning perfectly with our support. Technically now, it was resistance, now support. And 4,920, which was my kind of breakout region to confirm what could be a very good move, and approximately give or take there. So if we break below this level, then 100% we are likely going to reverse back to the downside and see a sharp decline back to this level. So as of now, there isn't really looking like a threat for that to happen unless it's a very sharp move that breaks through. So hopefully we just see a very easy, steady climb above. Now, XRP covered. Let's move to Ether. So Ether's had a very significant day as well, I guess you could say. Seen a nice little rise. There is a trend line technically there as well, so I do believe when the downside push comes back in, we are looking around 80 cents and lower, $80, sorry, and lower. But first of all, there's not many trend lines to the upside, so we have a support trend line, but the first thing that I see here on this monthly time frame, again, not much price action. I should have used maybe another chart, should have used the Kraken chart maybe for this one. So again, guys, when it comes to charts as well, take it as it comes. How much price action is currently available? If another time frame does have a better option, so again, let's just use the Kraken one. I think the Kraken one has much more, not too much more, but it does the job. So got some price action there, just a bit more cleaner. I like to have as much price action and data as possible to aid me in my trading. So clear level right above here straight away. What do we see? 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect, 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 perfect. Tapped through, doesn't really count too well. Perfect closure, perfect closure. What a solid level. $200 as well. Round number, doesn't really get any better than that. And technically, you could consider this as well, but we'll leave that for later. So leaving a nice green target there off the bat. Fairly easy level to breach. First thing I see as well, very nice and clear to project, just in case we see that extra push. Doesn't get cleaner than this either. 1, 2, and again, a perfect tap from there all the way down there. Close back above, 2 double taps dead in the center of around $280. Closed again exactly there. Closed technically exactly there as well. Open there, sorry. And pulled down straight to this level. So 2 key levels for me right there. I could technically consider this monthly resistance and a projected target, whereas on the downside, we have just broken out of here. So what I'll be considering a support level for now is this. And I'll change that to gray, make it nice and clean. And you know what? Because there has been a lot of volatility as well, drop it down there as well, just to be safe, just have an extra security measure. And looking at that level, besides where all the body's closed, look at where that candle spiked, bang, all the way back up, the same way this candle spiked precisely there as well. So we have seen loads of wicks attempting to break out. There was a sufficient weakness, but this absolutely obliterated through that level, and we are seeing a very solid run right now. First thing that comes to mind and vision, we had the trend line there. Again, 1, 2, third spike, consolidated, broke through. All we had on the weekly was that final tap down, final retest, and absolutely exploded. So upside target wise as well, actually, that should be a 78.6 fib as well. Hopefully, we'll measure both. Again, crypto can be give or take. Currently at the 61.8 already, not too threatening, but just above, we do have that 78.6 aligned very nicely with those prior wicks. However, for the sake of this surge, let's just extend this to make a bit more sense. Looking at this right now, much better. We have the alignment with the upside of the wicks and the zone here. And what we can do now, we're on the weekly. Actually, no, we will leave this. This is pretty clean, in my opinion. We'll leave that right there. That's good enough for me. And looking at this right now, breakout above 61.8, perfectly aligned with those wicks there, as you can see, and the candle body closures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice zone. Not too concerning right now, as I do believe the more significant level is above, as you can see from the major movements and the wicks here that have caused significant moves to the upside and downside. So taking these into consideration, I will just remove this and not have any distraction. Get rid of this as well. But again, using these levels, please ignore, obviously, price going to minus $27. I don't really think that would happen, but with this level here, $33, it could happen if BTC falls to $1,300, because this is where we spiked to last time. And I don't know if you remember, if you've listened to my podcast before, I was in this live when I bought Ether around this region here and it exploded. I remember I must have seen about 200-300k just absolutely drop in a matter of seconds. It was like 3 in the morning, I think. I was literally just sitting in bed watching the charts, just watching this parabolic run. Price absolutely dropped, and I don't think you've ever seen someone shake, shiver, and pretty much poo themselves at the same time. It was phenomenal, but very exciting, and that's how the market is. So taking this into consideration as well, huge upside wick that was attempting to breach higher, got pulled back. Now this price has breached this level, it could be signifying another climb higher. And we have seen that many times over. For example, huge attempt to break through, price breaks through, just doesn't even stop from that point onwards. And again, let's try and find some more ideas here. Again, similar movement, huge candle. Again, if we didn't consolidate, just like here, broken through, barely pulled back. If anything, it's pulled back and it's tapped this region here as well, where the prior wicks are. So if you're looking at pullbacks right now on Ether, potentially all you're seeing is a pullback. Well, it's not all, it's a fairly big move considering how big it's been moving today as well. And look, perfect, broken through, technically a pullback and retest, now breaching higher. So I do actually believe that is a very valid level. Get rid of that, keep it nice and clean. Again, I wouldn't normally have this many levels plotted at the same time, but for the sake of showing you and giving a bit more visibility, I do believe it's a good idea to show this. So let's go to the 4 hour. How's the 4 hour reacting? To be honest with you, I'm actually seeing this, even though it looks extremely bearish, it does look pretty positive to me because it's pulled back, it's gone down, and it's still managed to creep back higher straight away. So it's looking pretty good if you ask me. So daily time frame, again using this level, again the daily candle closures for me, where the daily candles close last, if we snap below this level, it will likely retest and just absolutely dump. So we do have to remain cautious of that as well. Again, XRP, with this region here, we can be a bit more cautious with downside because there's a trend line and you have this region here. So anywhere around 0.35, if that gets broken, that is a red flag to get out. Now Neo, it's been a while since we've done Neo. Now Neo doesn't have too much price data. However, if I check the other time frames, other exchanges, let's go to Binance. No. Bitrex had a lot of data, I believe. Yeah, there we go. So let's use Bitrex for now. Nice and clean. Once again, very similar price action movements. Trend line, nice and clean. Let's go and extend this out a little bit. There we go. And sorry guys, someone was just calling me, close that down. So first thing we see is a resistance level that is now support that we've broken from. That gets marked straight away. Clean, nice and clean. We'll drop down to that obviously on the weekly in a second. And on top of that, we also have this region here. Quite important because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So technically, again, just like Ether, there is a very close upside target in play, which is nice to see. Perfect wick rejection there, which I'll sort out in a bit. So 1, 2, technically 2, 3, 4, 5. Very nice, very strong level for me. In between there as well, we will mimic what we done with Ether. How did this just fully change colors? I'm not too sure. Let's get rid of that. Make that gray. And then just below here, guys, again, perfect level as well. That is around $7.5, $7. What you can see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wicks, keeping that nice and solid. So actually what I'll do is I will duplicate this, make that the clear, bit darker. I like that, makes it a bit cleaner. And for upside projections, very simple stuff. Again, using the bodies for the monthly time frame from now. What do we have in store just above? We have 1, 2, 3 wicks. So straight away, we know now to drop down to the weekly time frame. And again, what I do with the weekly is once I've plotted my key levels, the way I know if they are sufficient and if they are solid is because they are actually very valid on the weekly and daily time frames by the amount of times they've been tested or how many wicks have actually met these regions. So looking at these two levels here, the amount of congestion that was occurring before a breakout, very clear level. And the same way that this level caused a breakout before, it technically has again just here, except it tapped and then absolutely exploded. So next easy upside target for this level. Let me just drag that down precisely to the wick. And what I'll do is just keep this clean. Doesn't need to be that far ahead. Drag it up to around $16 because $16 is a very nice and easy upside target over there. And then once you've broken above to the upper end, again, look, huge reversal, guys. Huge wicks that spike down to our region here. However, the reversal was significantly caused from this level. And as you can see, the candle bodies never closed below this zone. We finally came down and tested this region, spiked within the same category and zone again, and then rejections galore, breakouts. However, candle body closures and wicks that have spiked through so many times, this cannot be ignored and is a great and very solid level. So taking that into consideration, a break above $16 straight to $20, nice and simple. And again, let's just do this for the sake of educational purposes. What do we have in store today? We have the huge and perfect 61.8, around $18. Again, look at that congestion there. I'm not going to mark that level because it's not too important for me, but this as well works out very nicely with our target because what I normally consider is what could be a spike that just about tips through to where the prior bodies were as well, and taking into consideration all of these wicks that have been moving and fluctuating. So taking into consideration these wick regions as well, even if it spikes to here and taps into this box, technically it has still closed lower than the prior high. Now, obviously, again, with all of these pairs we're looking at, again, nice little movement on BTC. Hopefully that can climb a little bit higher before the end of this video as well, for the sake of that live trade. Looking at all these levels, if they of course break the upside projected targets, because the reason BTC has such a significant move, and because the dominance is still 50%, because there is nothing stopping it really climbing higher, is why we can be a bit more optimistic for the altcoin surges as well. So looking at these levels here, I do believe this is a very nice clean level. If this snaps back below, let's go to the daily. Again, clean rejection, tapped, spiked straight above as well. So get rid of that. If we tap this region, fail to break, this could be interesting. Let's see where this lines up with. Nice. So if you actually had that drawn, remember I don't cheat, so I do not do all of this crazy stuff that people like to do. Again, it does count with prior price action, but what's most relevant to the current price action, I don't really look at this chart, so I didn't see it myself, but as you can see, 1, 2, breakout, slowly climbed, just using it as support. It literally just guided itself as support, broke out, rejected, flew higher. So easy upside target, $16. From there, we are looking at $20, give or take, which should be very nice to see if this market continues surging. Now, we're going to quickly do Dent, and then we're going to go through these altcoins very quickly now, because we are running out of time, and I do need to render this video for all of you. So I don't know why it keeps doing these colors for me, but let's just leave it that way anyway. Very clear level of support. And we're very fortunate. When it comes to bull run targets, by the way, guys, always use where price actually was listed on an exchange as an easy upside projection. As you can see, it was listed around there on Binance and absolutely melted. So that was around 0.006. All you got to do if you want to start projecting long-term targets. And by the way, in the course, will be much more than just day trading, so do not think it's just a intraday course or an intraday course. There is absolutely everything and more, so I just wanted to lay that out there as well. You'll be learning a lot more as the course actually gets released in terms of longer term trading, investing as well, and overall balancing a multitude of different portfolios. So again, easy way to project upside targets over there. One thing that comes to mind straight away is this little gem. What happened here? Perfection. So after having such a successful rise today, that is something to take into consideration. However, look at the curvature. I do like this. That nice slow curvature normally leads to a nice upside explosion as well. So price is currently lodged in between these certain levels. This can be a bit of a messy one, but we can adjust it once we get to the weekly. So very clear, I do not want to count these ones. I want to count where the significant reversals occurred, which could also be there as well. So do you know what, for now, let's just leave that there, because it's a bit more precise with the candle bodies and the wick. And then from there onwards, we can continue to see where price will head. Now, going to the daily. Nice and simple. We don't really need to. It's getting a bit laggy now, guys. Sorry about that. So just having a look here, congestion. I do not need to worry too much. I will mark this level off where price is actually just rejected as well. And now we go back to the daily. So marking this will make it a different color, a nice kind of intraday level over there. Not sure why that's so dark, but as you can see with Dent, there is a huge amount of choppiness, very insecure price action. Not something that makes me too confident. I don't like how many wicks there are. It's not something I would be trading, but looking at this momentum right now, and if we're going to use a little intraday trend line as well, guys, this is looking pretty promising, to be honest with you. Again, broken out, rejected, taps that support floor one last time before it could potentially rocket to the absolute sky. So nice upside projection on this one. We are looking around 0.0017, and again from beyond there, it could, if it does break this trend line as well, it could result in a very sharp pullback because of how major this trend line is in comparison to many of the other altcoins. So I would take this into consideration as a, kind of a risk factor, so to speak, because if this does break and pull back, it could provide a nice buy opportunity. But if you are in a long position and you're expecting it to creep that extra bit higher, it may not be worth holding on, and it may be worth just taking profits. The same way when BTC potentially hits this level here, I'm just taking my profits. I'm not here to try and catch that extra push to maybe 6-8. I'll take my profit, get out, call it a day, and carry on with my life. So let's have a look. One final upside projection to just be cautious of is just above. It's not too far off. It's just this level here. Reason being, Candle bodies there, huge wicks rejecting, significant amount of reversals have been caused for this region. And before the massive bullish surge kicked off, look, there was one final test at that region before absolutely rocketing to the sky. So guys, now that we've covered those, it's time to quickly run through the altcoins and get through all of them. So we have ADA. ADA actually annihilated. Again, the moving averages are set up on this one for some reason. We had the upside target of 0.09. Now, guys, look at where price landed upon that breakout I covered precisely. It literally tapped it to the T. It could not get any more perfect. But we have now broken that level, which means we need to consider where price could be heading next. And that's a weekly moving average crossover as well. Very interesting to see. Very promising price action. So right now, the first level that comes straight to mind is... let's mark that green, I'm not sure why it's so strong, is around 0.11. So around 11 cents, nice easy upside target, huge reversal, wicks, body closure, wick, perfect, nice clean 11 cents region. Dipping down to the daily, looking at where that is right now. Actually, let's go back to the weekly quickly. Again, looking at one of the main swing highs, this has actually broken one of the swing highs, to be honest with you. So we could be in for a treat with Cardano. It could be a very interesting one, because if we go to the market cap as well, looking at a 23% gain today compared to the rest of the market. And if we refresh this, the BTC Dominance is yet again dropped by 0.2%. Very good to see, if you ask me. Now, looking at that, what could occur from there then, if this has been broken, although this is the main key level to be cautious of, we do have to be careful. If this breaks, then yes, by far, we are just going to absolutely rocket to easy upside target, easy to spot as well, straight away around 13 cents just up there. And again, you can do this all day long really with the candle bodies, but you have to wait and be patient and see once key levels are broken. You cannot just jump into things and expect them to move. You have to wait first for further confirmation. So nice upside targets there as well to take into consideration. And of course, the downside targets are just below 1 cent. So we're looking at around 0.0917, a massive level to be cautious of and take into consideration. As for IOTA, IOTA has been abiding quite nicely with the overall market structure and bias of our trades. We have been pretty much predicting this breakout to 0.34 and beyond, and we've broken through that wedge. So yet again, I don't know why this chart's so messy. It was just from the olden days, but I haven't touched it ever since. So breakout, very clean, very simple, tapped one last time, pulled back, consolidated, and absolutely rocketed through. We have not rejected or tested this level yet, which is fairly concerning. But then looking at how prior price action has reacted before, because this moving average is currently set up as well, I do believe the surge for IOTA could peak around 47 cents. However, I do believe it could close back around the 44 to 43 cents level. Very simple stuff. If we break below, thankfully this level is marked, 34 cents, we are looking straight back down to the trend line here, which obviously will come into play again in the future. It's very unlikely to see a trend line never come into play again. Even if it took a year, I do believe this trend line would be met once more. So take that into consideration there as well. We do not need to do too much analysis on this one. Looking clean. Do believe that upper spectrum of the box could be tapped around that level as well. So nice to see for now. If we do see a very magnificent surge, then of course we have that 46 cents region located up there as well, but that's not really too significant for me right now. And again, take note of this box, guys, all the wicks, all the candle body closures, precision. That caused such a significant reversal. That's why this 40 cents level could be a very strong level to take into consideration, because price saw a very parabolic bull run after such a movement. Now, CIS has been fascinating because we did cover that trend line retest as well. We were expecting it to occur. It did actually dip just below one last time, peaking around 0.053. What happened and occurred from there? Very similar stuff, guys. As you can see, the wicks have been breaching, they've been attempting, they've been looking very bearish, huge reversal indicators. Price finally broke through. Now we're seeing the same thing occur, just on a much higher level. So just as you've seen here, we are looking like we're going to see a major reversal again and again. We should see a final pullback and then an explosion, but this is looking pretty promising for that 0.1 region. Very easy upside target. Weekly time frame, trend line there as well. 0.1 doesn't really get any more perfect than that, to be honest with you. Go into the daily as well. Let's see how this looks. Anywhere breaking below around 0.06 would be a bit concerning for a potential downside push back to 0.05. So take that into consideration as well. Now, as for this little gem. This was an amazing call, and the levels have been very precise. We broke out of this box initially, if you remember, from the first ever Wizard Wednesdays. Now, what's occurred from this point onwards? Well, we broke out the box, rejected it, and then rocketed to the sky. Now, what's happened again? We formed a box for around 3 days, broke through, rejected, flew. Where did we land exactly when we broke out? So this can now be adjusted to there for future reference. Now we reversed, we tapped, and we absolutely rocketed to the sky. If you have these levels marked out, you would have known in advance. It would have been a great opportunity to buy ZRX. Now, unfortunately, I've kind of steered off too many altcoins for the time being as I'm just so busy. However, that came up very nice as well. Now, we've broken through 0.35. We've pulled back. We've tapped it. So I do believe ZRX's next upside target is located around that 48 region. But again, exercising caution. The thing is with these ones, they do not have too many real swing lows or highs. This has been very choppy. It's seen, to be fair, ZRX did almost kickstart a bull run of itself. When I first initially called this last year, we saw a magnificent surge. I believe it was around 300%, and it could be occurring once again. But let's remain logical. Right, that was absolutely outrageous. That was the worst trend line I've ever drawn in my life. Bear with me a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so taking these levels into consideration with where ZRX is going, I do not really believe we would see such a significant move. That's quite OTT, but it can come into play nevertheless. But for now, I would like to focus firstly on around 50 cents, and then from there we can focus on 60 cents. We're very fortunate with ZRX. It moves in increments of 10 cents if you haven't noticed, and if you want to just keep duplicating these in 10-cent increments, you will see every single 10-cent movement works out very precisely. Now XLM, going to that daily very quick. Let's go to the weekly first. So upside target along with that trend line there, we are looking straight at 15 cents. Very clear, very precise target. Again, swing high here, not too important, hasn't really been a major reversal from this region. Key levels here are obviously what would cause a bull run. Breaking through there at a peak could see around 20 cents. But for now, let's focus on 15 cents as that's more significant. Just like the rest, BTC, etc., broke through, rejected, tapped there, exactly where it was before, around 0.1. But not just that, we now have this region in play, which I'll move up to here. Because the breakout occurred, it tapped and it pulled higher. So a break below 12 cents for me would be a concerning alarm sign for this to fall down to the trend line around this region here. So please take that into consideration as well. Another warning sign. As for ARK, well, magnificent stuff. We saw the fake breakout. We saw the pullback, which tested exactly on that wedge that we had labeled there, and it absolutely rocketed price to our next upside target, which we have been projecting for a very long time. So with this right now, that now gets extended out to there in the future. And this, although it did come through technically, you could consider that as well. A nice region, broke through, rejected, spiked, now pulling higher. So although we have actually technically met our first target of around 80 cents, and we've actually breached that level, the upside target upon a huge bullish surge, nice and simple stuff. You've got this region here around 90 cents. Now 90 cents is a very low-key level. It has caused a reversal. There's been a lot of spikes, but to be honest with you, once we break above 80 cents, it shouldn't be an issue to break through this and go straight to around 1.2. So you are looking at a very good ROI on most of these coins actually, the more I look at them now. Now LTC, I was very cautious of this one. I didn't want to enter with 3 channels. I've never really seen that before coming into play. And looking at these targets now, well, let's just get rid of this for now and drag this straight to the next logical upside target of around, actually, I wouldn't even put that level into play. That's just intraday for me, intraday. Not too consistent. There's barely any levels taps there. Something to be cautious of, but look at this. Broke from there, broke out of there. Now we have the next upside target where all of the wicks and bodies have been accumulating. Broke through, tapped once, absolutely melted. Now going to the daily. Just watch out for that region there. This has been magnificent. So the trend line was holding 1, 2, 3, 4. But one final touch technically, bang, straight through the roof. So with this one, I would exercise even more caution because of how much it's risen today. Very significant move, same as Bitcoin Cash. Not that I'm looking at that, but something to just be cautious of once again as well. So upside for this, I would even be cautious if this breaks around $90. If $90 gets broken, looking at where those wicks are right now as well. Again, look, prior action, huge movements there. Let's drag that down for a second. This is more cautious and more alarming than the upside. So if this breaks below, it could easily drop down to around $80 and potentially 60 from there. Again, all of these trend lines in play is something to worry about, because it has seen a much larger move than the rest of the market, and that's always a big telltale sign for me. Now, GNT has finally hit our first upside target of 10 cents. Been waiting for this for a while. It's finally come through. Very good to see. It is showing a fairly solid pullback right now, which is quite alarming. It has been a bit choppy, this one, and it hasn't really been moving in sync with the market. And as you can see from that 4-hour movement right there, it isn't looking very promising. However, looking at how it has been climbing steadily higher, just take into consideration, again, key levels around here, intraday level, around there, around 0.095, and also this trend line, because it is holding. Look at the choppiness and the wicks on GNT. As you saw, we were taking so long just to push the 10.5 cents that we did eventually break through, pulled back, but a clear breakout should take us straight to 15 cents. So I am hoping to see a movement very similar to that very soon. And as for the living legend BAT, so we had the trend line spike perfectly to our upside target, broke above that. This is the weekly time frame, broke straight through, taps that trend line, spiked a little bit higher, and then began pulling back. So using this as a kind of judge of what could be occurring next, I'm not really willing to place any speculative bets on this one because of the fact it's a trend line. Price is looking fairly bearish from that 32 cents region, and going to the weekly, huge indecisive candle, which could signify maybe a final push up to the upside around this level here once more, around 36 cents. But overall, I do think this could be one of the first ones to actually begin tumbling. So I'm taking this with a bit of caution right now. There's a very steep counter trend in play as well, and looking at how it's mirrored itself every single time. So just a quick one. Very messy, I know, but just use the principles. Again, it's all about historical patterns and identifying what's next. And again, just looking at that there, 1, 2, 3, very similar movements, lower highs every single time. Still hasn't reached that prior high on the weekly. The daily now looks absolutely horrific. However, if it does close above, then we could be in for a very big surprise. But as of now, look at that accumulation galore, wicks galore, failed to break that trend line. It's been holding so perfectly. It's something to definitely not be jumping into right now. As for BNB as well, the same occurs. We've broken out from our key level and our final upside target. The only real upside target we can logically claim we know about is where it was originally listed. So to make this very simple and brief, we have around $20.6 would be the most logical upside target for BNB, which is just below now. And I do believe, if I draw another trend line on here, I do believe this will fall back to the trend line first actually before exceeding, and that could dip to around 17.5 cents before breaching higher. Now with BNB, this could be one of the first ones to break out alongside ZRX as well. I know Cardano has had a very good day as well, so I wouldn't be surprised, because if you look at these ones, they have major swing highs much higher than the rest of the market in comparison to BTC, for example. So there is much more room for these ones to fly versus some of the others which have swing lows or swing highs just above where we currently are. So there is a bit more restriction. But guys, on that note, I am out of breath. That was a very long breakdown, but I do hope more than enough has been covered. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well, and I do hope anything you have been wanting to be covered in terms of technical analysis as well has been made a bit easier, because I do not normally reveal how I analyze charts. Now, I know I've done this very briefly, very quick. This is not a rock solid chart. I would definitely be doing this again soon with much more time as well, where we can specifically focus on specific cryptos and specific alts, and we can plot those levels together. So anything you've seen in this video, you keep them into consideration for either day trading purposes or for your long-term hodling portfolio. However, very soon as well, if you haven't already, please mimic the charts in the Telegram that I've posted or in the breakdowns, and then you can add your own analysis from there onwards. And again, use this as another reason to learn. But on that note, guys, it's time to get this video rendered and published for you guys ASAP. So hope you've enjoyed the Wizard Wednesdays. I hope you're having a good Wednesday as well, and I'll be seeing you in the Telegram very shortly.